Welcome to this open mic and news analysis show, Truth Armor, where we train ourselves to look at the news, to look at what we see on social media and other media, and ask ourselves these questions. What's missing here? What's this a distraction from? Who is funding this, and who are their clients and bosses? We have Alyssa here, and I'm going to send some kites to let people know that the open mic is live. And yeah, and then if you click on the video icon or click on request, you can request to be on the live, and I can accept you, and then you can share a poem. Alrighty. Alright, so while I do this, I always start with going through the news. And sometimes there's a topic, and tonight there's definitely something important I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about related to who is funding this, right? That question. The publishing industry in the United States is owned by basically the big five. There are five big companies that own them. So it's essentially almost a monopoly, and I want to talk about who actually are the parent companies of those companies. Because it's really important to know and explains a lot. But first, let's go to the news. I use a website. It's also an app called Ground News. The good thing about Ground News is that it actually, hello, Randy, welcome. So I always start the show with going through Ground News, which is an app and also a website that tells you the news from various sources, and it actually labels the bias of each source. It also tells you the bias distribution of each news story. So, for example, there is this news story right now. It says White House defends Trump remarks, says he does not want members of Congress executed. Hello, Randy. So the bias distribution of that is at 33% left, 25% right, and 42% center. So that means 33% of news reports about this come from left-leaning news sources. 25% come from right-leaning news sources, and the center comes from 42%. And there's more news. Hegseth says terror designation provides Pentagon with new options to go after Venezuela's Cartel de los Soles. U.S. considering sanctions, Pentagon engagement and plan to protect Christians in Nigeria. So the bias distribution for that is, I guess it looks like 64% center, and then very little on the right, and then very little on the left either. So there is a genocide of Christians in Nigeria right now. So, yeah. And let's see. Top news stories. Yes, Larry Summers going on leave at Harvard as university investigates. And people are saying it's an interesting coincidence because he was just found in the Epstein files that just got, the Epstein emails that just got released. And it's not good. So for those who don't know, both houses of Congress, the Senate passed it unanimously, the House passed it almost unanimously, and Trump has signed that law to release the Epstein emails and the 20,000 Epstein files. I don't know if that's all the files, but hopefully it is. So, yeah. So there's that. Yeah. And then, what else? Okay. Now that we have two people here, I actually want to go into the topic that I wanted to address this year. So, I I grew up in a Marxist military dictatorship, and I so it's like I know imperialism very well. I also used to I was an administrator. I was an admin for an entire network of Facebook groups with thousands of members uh, of basically anti-racism Facebook groups. Um, and so there was a group called Conversations with White People. There was another group called Conversations with Indigenous People, Conversations with People of Color, etc. And so while running that group, I've basically, seen all of the imperialist propaganda in real time and how it affects people's thinking, right? So this year I joined a lot of book clubs, and most of them were fiction, and it's really interesting, even that, right? How the fiction book clubs outnumber the nonfiction by like 9-1 or 10-1, which itself is a fascinating trend because to me it shows that increasingly people would rather escape into fantasy than actually know real truth and facts, right? Especially in a world where increasingly even the facts themselves are becoming fictional because people are just making up lies, right? Making up stories and telling lies and claiming they're facts. So I decided to do some research, right? Because a lot of the fiction is literally imperialist propaganda. I can just see through the propaganda. Like every fiction book that I read this year pretty much has imperialist propaganda, some more than others. So I did some research, right? So I looked at who are the top 5 publishing houses. Because what I do is whenever I read a book, I don't just read the book. I research the author and the publisher, and then I go into who owns that publisher, and then I go into who is the ultimate parent company. Right. So we have the top 5 publishing houses in the United States. They are HarperCollins. It might shock you who owns these top 5 companies. But for me, it's not so shocking because I understand imperialism, right? I've studied it very deeply. So we have HarperCollins. We have Penguin Random House. Penguin Random House is literally the world's largest trade book publisher. So I think basically that means paperbacks. Then we have Macmillan, and we have Simon & Schuster. And Simon & Schuster is the 3rd largest publishing company in the world. And then we have the Hachette Group. So let's look at who is the parent company of these 5 companies, who owns each of them. So it turns out HarperCollins is owned by News Corp, which also owns Fox News. So all of these companies are owned by Rupert Murdoch, right? So, and of course we know how horrible Fox News is, and they helped elect Donald Trump. So they literally support white supremacy. Then we have Penguin Random House. So look at who owns Penguin Random House. Like I said, it's the world's largest trade book publisher. Guess who owns it? It's owned by a German company, Bertelsmann. And it turns out Bertelsmann collaborated with Nazis and had Nazi ideology. So they were literally Nazis. This is not a conspiracy theory, by the way. It's literally an open admission on Penguin Random House's own website. Now, you might wonder, why do they shamelessly admit that? Because they believe in their own progressive propaganda bullshit. You see, the idea of progressivism, right? The angle that they're using is, oh, we have changed. We have progressed. We're not like that anymore. Meanwhile, they still publish Hindu-phobic, racist books against my culture and my people. So I know they haven't changed. So this is why I say imperialism is like a macrocosm of domestic violence. Because the analogy that I give people for stuff like that is that it's like if an abuser repeatedly hits his partner, right, and then comes back with flowers and chocolate and says, "I'm sorry, baby, I have changed," and then he hits her again. That's what that is. That's what these people are claiming, that they have changed. No, they haven't. They're still Nazis. Then we have Macmillan, owned by another German company. And guess what? They're also, yep, they're also NAZI. I can't say that word too much on this live because otherwise they will censor me. So, NAZI, them too. So we have 3 out of 5 who are white supremacists. That leaves the fourth one. So we have HarperCollins, Penguin Random House, Macmillan. The fourth one is Simon & Schuster. See, Simon & Schuster is interesting because they almost got bought out by Penguin Random House about 2 or 3 years ago. Meaning they were willing to be bought out by those types of people, okay, which itself is a red flag. But due to an antitrust lawsuit, they were instead bought out by KKR investment firms. So who are they? It turns out KKR investment firm is a client of the AI spyware company Palantir, which was owned and founded by Peter Thiel, who is a mentor of J.D. Vance. And Peter Thiel is one of the most scary guys in the world. Okay, he literally talks about putting people in a virtual reality prison as a gentle or generous alternative to genocide. And Palantir is literally AI spyware company that wants to create software that can predict crimes. Yes, just like in that Hollywood movie Minority Report. By the way, this is why I say dystopian fiction and science fiction is not a warning. That is marketed as a warning. It's not a warning. It's a challenge. It's a threat. They're literally telling us their plans in advance. And they're literally challenging you. We're doing this. What are you going to do about it? We're doing this. We will keep doing it. That's why almost every single science fiction story has imperialism still going on 1,000 years from now, 10,000 years from now. Why? Because they fully intend to keep imperialism going for another 10,000 years. That's why I don't like Dune, even though so many people love it. Yeah, Peter Thiel. So now we have the fifth company. So that's 4 out of 5, right? The fifth company is the French company, the Hachette Group. They're the least shady. I did not find any white supremacist or NAZI connections with them. But here's the thing, they're shady too. They're owned by a French company called the Legendary Group. And guess what? Last year, the heir to the company, who was also the CEO and chairman, got arrested and indicted last year for insider trading, embezzlement, and abuse of power. So is it any surprise that all of these books are full of imperialist propaganda, and we're literally being programmed and brainwashed and mind controlled by these companies because we all read these books, and then movies and TV shows are based on these books. Before something becomes a movie or a TV show, it starts off as a book. By the way, this is why I fight against propaganda in pop culture, because pop culture is like pre-law or pre-politics. It's what happens before something becomes law. By the time something becomes law, it's already too late. The fight is over. You have to fight it before it becomes law. You have to fight it at the level of pop culture. This is why I started this show. This is why I'm pointing out these facts to you. They're all verifiable facts. You can do your due diligence. It's an open secret. Oh, not only that, I also discovered, because we're reading a biography of the third UN Secretary General in January, who was an indigenous Buddhist who literally saved the world from nuclear annihilation, right? So and he also spoke out against the Vietnam War. The Americans and the British were so pissed off and having an indigenous Buddhist leader as a world leader that the day after he retired, right, he was offered a third term by the Afro-Asian Alliance as well as the Soviet Union, but he declined it. And the day after he left, the very next day they elected a German who is also, it turns out, yes, NAZI. He was an NAZI. and he was Secretary General for 9 years, Kerry Waldheim. And later on, from 1986 until 1992, he even was president of Austria. But he was literally like a soldier or general or somebody who worked in the German Warsaw army when the Mustache Man was invading all these countries. And apparently, the U.S. government did not reveal that until 1992. And they pretended they didn't know that it was suddenly a new discovery. I'm pretty sure that's bullshit. I'm pretty sure they knew. They always knew. So for 9 years, the UN was literally ruled by this type of person. That's why even the UN, I consider it to be a joke. I mean, I knew it was a joke before, but once I discovered that, that was a confirmation. But anyways, now let's go straight into the open mic. There's a request. Hi, Devin.
I was just gonna say, the British did happen to find out about people doing more leadership than us Americans, even though we would sweep it, or we would be, forgive this word, retardedly slow about situations. So, yeah, I was wondering when you were gonna do your show.
Yeah, I mean, this is my show. So.
No, I
Oh,
know.
you were wondering when the next one was? Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I was wondering if you were gonna do this one or if you had other plans.
Oh, I see. No, unless I get sick or something, there's going to be a consistent thing that I'm going to do because I think this show is important and pointing out these facts to people is important because so many people don't know.
Yeah,
And when you don't know, it's much easier to manipulate you and brainwash you.
yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest, though, I don't know half the stuff, and even if I did know, I'd be honest with you. I'd be like, okay, I don't want to know because because then because not only would you say it manipulate your mind, but it would make you go insane and then brain about what was real, what was not real.
Yeah, that's why you need a strong mind. That's why you need a strong meditation practice, grounding practice, touch grass. I do that, that's why uh, I connect all the time deeply to my pre-colonial, um, pre-imperialist indigenous culture because we have practices to keep our minds very strong in the face of all of this, because disillusionment can temporarily break your ego and then you have to build it back up. But in that in between space, you can go crazy, right? That's why our ancestors, even when we made babies, right, when we were making babies, we would choose a time of conception that would ensure that astrologically the baby would be born during a time period where in his chart he or she or they would have a very strong mind. That's how
Yeah,
committed we were to having strong minds and building strong minds. That's why we were prosperous for 1,000 years without any slavery, without any expansionist stuff that other people were doing. We had all of that. We had advanced science, physics, right? We discovered the laws of motion long before Newton because we were so committed to that, and that's why we're still like standing strong as the largest indigenous culture on earth, whereas many other indigenous cultures have been, destroyed or mostly erased. Yeah, but you have a good point. You gotta be, you gotta make sure your mind is strong before you
yeah,
learn these things.
yeah. So
And then
you
Randy
meant
also said, I think solid community and loved ones help keep you grounded too. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So you mentioned that the people that did these companies, one one kind of came to I will get this. I will get your country name right.
Myanmar.
May
Myanmar. Myanmar.
May Myanmar. Okay, Myanmar. Uh, they
You can
came
say
back to
Burma, which is the English name. Right?
Yeah, I'm so used to that, even though we
Yeah,
don't identify as that anymore. But anyway,
yeah,
when
yeah.
when we when he came back to Myanmar and apologized, so it got me wondering, since he faked this apology, did the Japanese ever apologize? Because since
Wait,
in
who
order to get
apologized?
the guy you said that 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 was trying to control Myanmar, but the guy you were just talking about.
No, I didn't say that.
No.
Uh, I said that the third United Nations Secretary General was from my country, Myanmar. And no,
Yeah.
he didn't apologize. He didn't have anything to apologize. So I didn't mention that. What I was saying was
Oh.
he was he served 2 terms in the United Nations, and during the first term, immediately up after he was elected, the Cuban Missile Crisis happened, and he
Right.
saved the United States and Soviet Union from nuclear war. And then during his last term, in fact, the very last year of his term, the genocide of Bangladesh Hindus happened, right? And
Yeah.
he was trying to stop the genocide and also trying to help the Hindus. During that year, he worked 14-hour days, 6 days a week, and he ended up with an ulcer and got hospitalized twice, right? So because of all that, even though the Afro-Asian countries wanted to offer him a third term, he declined because he was
Right.
like, "This
Right.
is too much pressure," right? But also the Americans and the British did not want him anyways because he spoke out against the Vietnam War, and they didn't like that. That's
Yeah.
why they even blocked him from receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. And that year, when he was supposed to receive it, they gave it to UNICEF instead.
Yeah.
So what I was saying was that the Americans and the British were so pissed off at having an indigenous Buddhist leader and a truly decolonial person lead the world for 9 years that immediately afterwards, they literally elected a literal Nazi to be the next UN Secretary
Oh.
General. Yeah,
Oh. Okay. All
yeah,
right.
Kerry Weldon. Yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
but like I said though, like, did the Japanese ever come and apologize to their atrocities that came upon Main Myanmar?
No, they did not for the atrocities. No, yeah, no,
I was
neither the British nor the Japanese. Yeah,
yeah.
in
Uh,
fact,
yeah. I was just
yeah.
wondering that because you figure because Japan effed up and now they're trying to make up for that effed upness. You figure that they would have came to the countries they conquered and be like, we apologize.
Right, exactly. In fact, that's another thing that pissed me off this morning because as I was, doing my research, I discovered there's a science fiction story called The Stardust Trail that just came out 2 years ago, and it's about Yume Kitase,
Yeah,
and it's basically the premise is that you know how there are a lot of stolen artifacts right now, right? That the
yeah,
British stole, and they're at the British Museum right now, and also in the French Museum, stolen from mostly from Africa and India, right?
yeah,
Uh, and it's also some countries in the Arab region, right? And Japan had, very little artifacts stolen compared to all these countries, right? So the science fiction story is set in the future where it's marketed as anti-colonial. It's about a thief who returns stolen artifacts from museums to the alien civilizations they belong to, right? So first you
yeah,
have indigenous people as aliens trope, but like I'm like, okay, that's an important story to be told. I'm glad, even though it's not real, we can imagine it being happening. But then I noticed, wait a minute, the author is half Japanese, half white,
yeah,
and I'm like, that is so fucked up, because the Japanese were literally the colonizers themselves, who also
yep,
stole artifacts, who had colonized Taiwan, Japan, and Taiwan, Korea, and China, and also
yep,
invaded my country, right? So instead
yes,
of giving the story the publishing industry, right? These big five publishing houses, instead of giving this story, having an indigenous Hindu or an indigenous African tell this story, they had a half white, half Japanese tell this story, the least
Yeah.
qualified person to tell this story. And I'm like, that is so fucked up. That's an example of the manipulation they do, because that just pissed me off. I literally made a YouTube video about it for that reason. So yeah, so instead of even apologizing, there are Japanese women doing this kind of shit. I blame the industry more than her, but she shouldn't be writing that story either. Like the fact that she
Yeah.
had the audacity to think that she had the right to write such a story and take up space that we should be taking in the publishing industry is fucked up. Especially when this industry is literally 79% white still. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wrote a fictional story. It
Excellent.
takes it takes place in World War. It takes place in World War III, and
Mm,
so China. So you know the meteor that killed off the dinosaurs supposedly. Well,
yeah, sure.
China bought that meteor from Mexico, and they decided, hey, we're gonna clone a respected hero from America, who's our nation, and we're gonna clone him, and we're gonna give the asteroid stuff that had a secret power in there. We're gonna
Mm-hmm.
infuse it with him, and and we're and so they called the asteroid thing Icarus, and to them it was like a cleaner version of nuclear power. But anyway,
Mm,
fast forward. It's 2030s, and China, their leader Ming, is wanting to collect every resources to make into super weapons. So they
mm,
already they already attacked all countries of that ends with Stan, and
mm-hmm.
they're now going to Africa and to a new African nation to steal the resources. Anyway,
Mm,
uh, five of my heroes that are part of a freedom fighter group called
mm-hmm.
Faceless that we're gonna fight Ming. So we do that. So the first battle takes place between in India Ocean and between the new African nation and an Indian island. And
Mm-hmm.
then after that battle takes place in Myanmar because they destroy there's a facility next to the border, so they
Mm,
go and destroy that. And the funny thing about this is that Myanmar allowed Faceless to build a chapter there so they could fight
mm.
off me. So yeah.
Oh, that's just a synopsis, not the actual story. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was part of the story.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I do a little cultural reputation and let you know that your country wins a battle.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Since
Yeah.
since we since we were talking about fictional stories, how one was messed up, and I was like, you know what, I can turn this into a positive thing.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. 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 This annoys me so much. A lot of the propaganda and stuff. Like, I wanna in 2027, I'm gonna start writing my own novel, my first novel, and I won't even try to get it published the conventional way. I'm not gonna get it published by these big five, publish these Nazis, right?
Yeah,
I'm I'm gonna self-publish it. I'm gonna take it directly to the people. Like,
my
yeah,
uh my
yeah,
my my stepdad's gonna help me. Well, he's gonna help
yeah,
me with the editing, and
yeah,
then he'll find someone worthy. And
yeah.
I I'm very I'm very restrictive about my books being published
Mm,
because one, I don't want them to say, oh well, we can't say it this way, or people won't understand it this way, or you have to rewrite it this way. I was like, and I always joke around this. I always joke around. If I die, someone can have my brain. I could donate my brain to someone, see how they can think. They can use it better than me.
hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I say 2027 because 2026 next year that's gonna be the year I do my research for the novel. I'm gonna do a lot of research for it, and then I'm gonna use all of that data to basically feed the writing of the novel. That's how I'm gonna do it. And the reason why I wanted to write is because there's another novel that pisses me off. It's not the Hindi-phobic one. This one, A Guardian and a Thief, right? And it's
Yeah,
basically a novel that's based on what's very likely to happen in the real world. In 2015, the city of Kolkata in India will be flooded, right?
yeah,
And it's a story. So it's a story set in 2050 about this poor family uh, who are experiencing flooding and famine, and they receive a climate visa to leave for the United States, right? So already there's the United States as the savior country, right? Western savior. And
yeah,
then their passports and visa get stolen. They were supposed to leave in 1 week, but their passports and visa get stolen. It's about, how um, basically these poor, savage Indians, and
yeah,
Hindus who now have to depend on the United States, right? So I looked this up, right? I found out that in 2050, many US cities will also be flooded.
yeah,
Basically, the entire Florida coastline, the entire California coastline, the Northeast, and Hawaii and Alaska. So, like, this story is literally American exceptionalism, right? While also portraying, Indians and Hindus as thieves and, thieves and robbers, right? So
yeah.
the same old, like, their savage propaganda, like we're savages according to them, right? So, so I'm like, I want to write a story that flips that and be like, I'm going to write a story about American refugees who flee to India, where in 2050, India will become the savior country that saves American refugees. That's the story I want to write.
Dude, the fun thing about my story is just this: I don't even do research. Like, so if I see a movie or a scene, or if I hear of a solution, I would
hmm
envision how I would have handled it, but I would have done it with a character of mine, how they
hmm
would have handled it. And
hmm
if we're talking about um islands and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
For
Because I've been looking at the Harappan Indus Valley civilization of India, right? They had such, so it's my ancestors basically, right? They had such advanced water technology, hydrology, that there was no flooding for 1,000 years. So I've
damn,
been really doing research on that, and it's very like they had literally like sponge cities, for example, that would like absorb instead of fighting, resisting the water, they would absorb it and slow it down, and then redirect the water. Like they had that level of sophistication. So in my sci-fi story, I want to write about how India, reclaimed this ancient technology and is now applying it in modern ways, so that they would become the top country that everyone flees to during the climate crisis.
yeah. So one of my books, and was based on my personal dark
Mm-hmm.
time. In 2012, the recession was going bad, and the
Mm-hmm.
recession. Well, so the recession was coming to at a peace up, but to me, I still had the effects of it, and I
The
was
recession
pissed.
was 2008, right? And then 2012 was you were still feeling the effects.
Uh, I don't know. Anyway, it
hmm
started in 2007, then 2008, but they said it
Because
ended. But to me,
there was a housing market crash in 2008, right? Right.
yeah. But to me, it still affected my family because my stepdad
Oh,
couldn't find a job, and we had to
oh,
move. We had to move to another state to look for work. So yeah, I was at that point. That was the point of me where I was like, okay, fuck the system, fuck the whole loyal thing. I'm about to become an anarchist. When my friend heard about that, he was like,
hmm
channel that, Devin,
hmm
make it into a book. So I did, and my best friend, and I love this dude very much, Diego. Anyway, so I used his name as a character of me that was, a happy guy would do anything for the nation, but when he got screwed, he was like, you know what? Fuck this country. I'm just gonna exile and go somewhere. So
Mm-hmm.
Diego in the book, he did that. He just left. He went on a cruise. Cruise mysteriously sinks, but he finds a private island. It's like, oh, this is my place. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna just I'm gonna start all over. And he does that. Now to get the resources, he would have
Mm-hmm.
to do black marketing. That's his second career. But his main career was being a therapist, a best friend therapist. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, because he had to pick on the black market to get resource, that's what he did. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So you wrote a book about it?
I
Is
did.
is it published? Like, is it on your website, or where can I get it?
Um, it was. I'll be honest with you. It was on my first Facebook, my first face. So
Oh,
my last 10 Facebook books, they were um they were in my old they were in my old Facebook account, but my Facebook account got discontinued. And then I
oh,
put I put the last 30 of them in memory sticks. One memory stick got destroyed, and
oh,
the other two are still in my memory stick. I just haven't even gotten
oh, okay.
because of yeah, because computers. I can't even get those out. So now I write books. I write books on a notebook.
Oh, good. Yeah, hard
Yeah.
copies are safest. Yeah, that's why I've been placing it on multiple copies. I have it one on computer, one in the cloud, because last year my computer stopped working
Yeah.
and I had to reformat the whole thing, and I lost all of my poems. That it's still on the old. I had to replace the hard drive, and it's still on the old hard drive. I know I could go to like a hard drive recovery specialist and maybe pay $200 or $300, and maybe they might be able to recover it. I don't know. But yeah, so that's why now what I do is whenever I write a poem, I also post a copy. I would copy and paste it into Google Docs. So I put it into two places now. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Randy said she split. So, but let me read her comment. So that's so that her contribution is known as well. So Randy
Right.
said, self-publishing. Self-publishing sounds like the way to go, given what you shared about the big five publishing houses. And she also said, yes, there are websites that predict the future flood zones and map them out exactly. And then she said she has to split. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. So yeah, you're welcome. And then Alyssa, who is the Rimini 344, she said, I want to learn more about these big five publishers. You are a great teacher. Exactly. Yeah,
You are.
someday I'm going to write an article so that I have all of that information in one place. Because right now, if you look for it yourself, you will have to do the kind of labor that I had to do, and I have to go to all these places. So I'm going to put it in one place with all the links so that you can look it up yourself. Like I said, this is an open secret. It's like Penguin Random House openly admits it, on their own website. So yeah.
Yeah.
And then
So
Macmillan, how I found that out is because the parent company, the heir to the parent company, I think the Hoser Group. Uh, so basically, the founder's grandson, he himself hired a private investigator, independent investigator, to find this out because he suspected that his grandfather was like this, and it turns out it's true, because he was German
yeah.
and all. So it's like, um, so yeah, like I said, this is not, everything that I shared tonight can be is verifiable, with data that you can look it up yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said,
Hmm.
when it comes to me writing books, I don't I don't really I don't really do research. What I would do is just like if I remember a scene or a movie, I want to recreate that, but in a different perspective and or a different twist. For example, you ever saw the movie Wild West from Will Smith?
Hmm.
You ever saw the movie Wild West?
Yes, actually, I have seen it. Yes.
So, so you know the end where he has to fight all those Confederate infused metal dudes.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, what if the Union soldiers did that? Like, what if they started infusing their soldiers with metal alloy super soldiers? So that's where I came up with that twist.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Despite all this talk of
Wait,
research,
Alyssa asked me a question, so I'm responding, right? She said, "How do
go
you
ahead.
spell penguin?" So basically, what you do, how I did it was I typed in Penguin Random House parent company, right, into Google. Then I typed in Penguin Random House parent company ideology. So parent company so I'm going to type in the name of that company because it's kind of hard to spell. That's why I said it's better if you type it in because Penguin Random House is easy to spell, right? So, but I
Yep.
will type it in anyways right here. So, because you can also put the name of the parent company and put an ideology. And all right, so it's Bertelsmann, right? Bertelsmann is the name of that German company. So it's kind of hard to spell and hard to pronounce, I guess. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, so you can also type in, Bertelsmann ideology. That's how I do my research. Like even with authors, what I do is when I look up an author, I would type in the name of the author and I would type in ideology and then I would type in name of the author and I would type in controversy, right? To see what bullshit they have in their story. I will also type in the name of the author and I would type in racism to see if they have made any racist remarks, right? That's how I do my research. That's the way I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I always thought it was Scottish, Italian, or
Yeah.
some or white, some sort of form of white European. But when
You're
my
mixed,
mother,
right? Yeah.
yeah, I'm a
You're
mix. But
biracial.
when my,
Like
say what?
you're biracial, right? Like
Yep. So when my I'm quarter biracial.
oh, okay. So you
Yeah.
said your
So
father is white and then your mother is Asian? No.
my father is half white and half Asian. But when he
Oh.
met my mother and they did their thing, I came out quarter biracial. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what's
Yeah.
funny is that you get a white guy, you get a white person and a Asian person doing their thing, and their baby comes out. The baby actually looks more Mexican than
Mm-hmm.
anything.
Yeah.
So anyway, I found out I was German from my mother's biological
Oh.
family, and I was like, motherfucker, I will not trust tree lines ever again. I
Mm-hmm.
See, my thing says I don't have a problem with the German people, nor with the British people. I just have the problem that they think they're all fat. They think they're so superior, and yet they still end up falling. And and this is not even around World War II time where they flex their powers. This is like way after. I was like, you motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alyssa was asking, I wonder who funded Wild West or who is the parent company of the movies and movie studios, right? That's going to be another rabbit hole. I haven't looked those up because I've been focusing on the publishing industry. But I would imagine I wouldn't be shocked if I find similar parent company origins.
Well,
Yeah, yeah,
we shouldn't be
yeah.
shocked that one Wild Wild West was a '60s shows, but then when it got rebooted into a '90s movie, yeah, we
Oh,
wouldn't
okay.
be, yeah, we wouldn't be shocked. But Warner Brothers made
Hmm.
made the movie in the
Warner
'90s,
Brothers. Yeah.
yeah, but in the '60s, I don't know. I could care less. All I know is
Hmm.
that it's basically another show in the West about Americans are better. There's an evil genius
Exactly.
and there's Native Americans that are feeling oppressed, but we don't give a fuck about their oppression.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Which of these two poems do you want to hear?
Hmm.
My untitled one that has my F word, or Exiled.
Exile.
Cool. And you'll get you'll get where this poem came from. But anyway, it goes like this. You know, I would do anything for this nation. I would do whatever it takes. I would fight for this nation. I would die for this nation. I would do whatever this nation asks of me. But I have a confession. I don't exactly understand the nation, or better, I don't favor it that much anymore because of the system. See, they have this system that only abides by people like me who are upstanding citizens and all that. But when it comes to my friend who speaks the truth about the errors of their way, they decide to shut him down because he's like the Mexican Tupac to me, and yet they want to say, "Oh no, this is never us." So it makes me think about everything about what the nation is. So until then, I'm gonna exile myself. See, I'm gonna exile myself to a private island where I can actually build a better brotherhood, a better community, and that way we can actually write the whole independent thing, the independent day, the independent idea about what it should really be. I'm gonna exile myself. I'm gonna exile myself to another private island where I can build a brotherhood where we can kumbaya together and just be together and have the great king's grandchild, great grandchild, and my child and my great grandchild actually coming together as a true brotherhood. I'm gonna exile myself. See, I'm gonna exile myself to a private island where I could walk the beach and look at the teaching tides, the reaching tides, and just appreciate the life lessons there. See, I'm gonna exile myself. Like I said, though, I love this nation. I would do anything for this nation. I would die for this nation, fight for this nation, speak for this nation. But truthfully, it's the system. The system that bothers me so much. The system that tried silencing my friends. So until we get that damn system fixed, and until we can actually live by the rules of the founding father, I'm gonna remain exiled in this fucking private island. And that's all I gotta say. Let's have peace.
I love that. I feel you. Like, this is why I keep telling myself, I don't want to stay in this country for more than like 5 to 10 years, 10 years max. Like, I have no intention of settling down here.
Yeah.
So, if possible, in 5 years, otherwise 10 years, but definitely, um, like no matter what, I'm leaving in 10 years. That I know for sure. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
To me,
yeah.
I can't, I can't go. Even if I build the courage, I'll be like this. Well, shit. One, I'm gonna have to learn another culture, which,
Hmm.
which we gotta be honest. My
Yeah, because you
language,
were born and raised here. Yeah,
yeah, my language,
yeah.
and plus I lived in Arizona, and
Mm.
even though Spanish is second required language, I still don't know half the shit's going on. Yeah, I still love the Spanish language, but anyway, so yeah, and it's basically the whole I want to do it, and I feel I consider all the people that are actually doing it brave, and they're my role models. But to me, I'm kind of stuck at the point, and yeah. But if I did, if I did build up a place, these are the three countries I would love to exile in. Thailand, I'm part Thai, and I've been
Mhm.
hearing a lot of positive things about Thailand.
Mhm.
Croatia, because I wrote so many books about Croatia, never
Mhm.
even studied it, and yet never been there, so there. And last but not least, because a few movies, Brazil. Because Brazil seems so happy, yet they still got their problems. I was like, I'll still go Brazil. I don't give a fuck.
Hmm.
I don't care what kills me in Brazil.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Did you know that Thailand is the only country that wasn't colonized by the European powers? And the reason is because they decided to be like the buffer, like the go between the other countries where they were
yeah,
like acting acting sort of like Switzerland, but also kind of very cunning in the sense that because they were the buffer, they basically sold out to everybody, and so everybody would end up fighting each other instead of them because they give basically sold trade rights to every
yeah,
single group, and and so if anybody invaded Thailand, another power would invade them, would fight them, you know. So they played them off each other, you know, and that's what Thailand did. So
yeah.
yeah,
But you're right though.
yeah.
But unfortunately, World War II though, Japan conquered everything, including an Asian version of Switzerland. They didn't care.
Hmm.
Japan didn't
Yeah,
care. They
yeah,
wanted to expand.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna drop down.
All right.
I appreciate your life. I appreciate you. I
Thank you.
appreciate your mind. If we met right now, I'd be putting my hands on your mind and saying, "You are a genius. I love your mind." Um, I do appreciate your country, even though it's very hard to pronounce. But I
I
will
know.
get it.
Yeah.
I will get it one day. But until then, to the person that's here, please please have an awesome topic. Until then, follow me as Pietro. Pray I don't fall. Until then, peace.
Please. Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
All right. So, listen, know you said you were looking for your laptop. So, so yeah, I'm gonna resend the live so you don't lose your place. All right. Oh, oh, there we go.
Hi,
Hey,
Kundan.
hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you for coming.
Thank you for talking about what you're talking about. It's super important to learn these things, and this is the first time that I've ever learned about like the big five publishing companies and like how to trust, what you're reading and what you're intaking. So
Exactly. Yeah,
it's really cool to learn.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why I'm doing this research because I felt like from the very beginning of the year, like every like, especially with the fiction books, right? With novels, right? I
Hmm.
feel like when you're reading fiction, you have to keep your mind even more guarded than when you read nonfiction. Because
Really?
because story by its very nature is very hypnotic. It puts you in a trance, right?
Hmm.
And then on top of that, some authors would put in hypnotic devices in addition to the regular hypnosis that story does into their stories. And I can recognize them because I've studied this type of hypnosis. I actually used to work for a hypnotherapist for 6 months. I was a live-in office manager. And the thing is, I've been on both sides of the manipulation table, right?
Hmm.
Uh, so but as far as me like manipulating somebody else, I've done it only once in my life, right? And so that's why I'm so passionate about it, right? Because I know it works because I've done it, right? I so like a few years ago when I was feeling like very desperate for money and stuff like that, right? I
Yeah.
literally like learned this technique, especially conversational hypnosis, right? Where I basically hypnotized somebody who literally said she only had $6,000 in her savings, right? And she gave me $5,000. She paid me $5,000 out of that
What?
6,000. Yeah, and I was successfully able to convince her, right? And it was basically hypnosis. But of course,
You gotta teach me that.
she asked for a refund in 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, because she woke up from her trance, right? So I had to give her a
Oh
refund.
my
So,
gosh.
so that's
That's
why I never used it
crazy.
again. So that's how I know it works because I wasn't even that skilled, Alyssa. I was just learning, okay? And I was able to do it. And so imagine somebody more experienced than me, right? What they can do. So that's why like I'm so passionate about this. And so with fiction, because I keep my mind even more guarded than usual because I know that, I I started noticing all of this propaganda in all of these books, even the books
Mm,
that I liked, right? That I thought initially was a 5-star read, it became like a 3-star at best because once I started noticing the propaganda. And most of the reads became 1-star ratings for me. And I'm like, something is
yeah.
off here, something is wrong. Why is it that every book sucks so much, right? And then that's why I started doing my this research a few days ago, and I'm like, oh my God, like, oh, no wonder, no wonder. Like, this is who owns them. Like nothing really has changed, you know. Actually, if you do your research on imperialism, I would say nothing has changed for the last 2,000 years. We're still living in Rome. This is Rome 2.0. It's like we're still living in the Roman Empire, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah. And I've studied imperialism, that type of imperialism as well. And and also, like I said, I used to be an admin for an entire network of Facebook groups with thousands of
Hmm.
members. It was basically anti-racism Facebook groups where we would try to debunk people's uh, beliefs about other races and ethnicities, right?
Hmm.
And like what they believe of Black people or what they believe of Mexicans. And we would argue back and forth, and I would notice like how people are programmed to believe in
Yeah.
these beliefs. And so I did the work of deprogramming along with the other admins that was there. So like, so even back then I was like basically de-hypnotizing people, right? Like the opposite of
Yeah.
hypnosis. And I was so passionate about that because like I said, I come from a Marxist socialist military dictatorship that was very oppressive, right? And it still is oppressive. So I've seen that propaganda from a very young age. And at the same time, I
Mm.
was lucky enough to be educated in the school for the children of diplomats, meaning they were like ambassadors, military personnel, and even intelligence officers. Like I met a CIA agent once, right? So I knew the way they think. Like I literally had an experience as like a 17 or 18-year-old where I met the US ambassador to my country, right?
Wow.
So, so technically, she wasn't an ambassador because the U.S. they like to play with words because it was a military dictatorship. They
Hmm.
never gave her the official ambassador title. They gave her charge d'affaires. It's basically the same position, right? So this was when this was around the time when 3 American soldiers had raped a 12-year-old Japanese girl at the Okinawa army base. It was
Yeah.
around that time that I met this ambassador. So I went up to her, and I'll never forget this experience, right? I went up to her and I asked her a simple question, right, as a teenager, right? And I said, you know, how come, like, your army is not educating these soldiers not to do that? Maybe they're not receiving a good education, right? And instead of like answering my question, she literally repeated my question, laughed at me, turned her back, and walked away,
Oh my God. That's terrible. Why would she
right?
do that?
Exactly. And for the longest time, because I was just a kid, right? for like 10, 20 years, I thought it was my fault. I thought that I had asked a stupid question.
No.
Exactly. And so that's another way mind control works, how they brainwash you, right? By mockery is another way. So that's another deprogramming that I had to do on my phone, on myself. And then, but it also taught me how these people, even at that low level of being a US ambassador, this is the way these types of people think. That's how they operate in the world. So from a young age, I understood that. So that's why I'm now passionate about fighting propaganda and imperialism. Yeah,
Fighting propaganda. I'm so sorry that you had to go with that, but I think that it taught you a valuable lesson about deprogramming yourself and like,
exactly. Yeah,
sorry, I'm just writing some stuff down because I'm learning a lot. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I would say like when you first started doing your research, what was the most challenging part?
I think the challenging part is the lies themselves. The lies are like the way it works is like it's lie upon lies and multiple layers of lies that you have to like dig through, you know.
Really, that
And
many lies?
yeah, it's and then you also have to know what to look for, how to do the search, right? Like, and you have to like want to do it and have a reason to do it. Like I said, when I did this research, right, I would type in, even authors now, what I do is I would type into the search engine the name of the author, and then I would type in controversy, and then I would type in racism to see like what controversy they have that I didn't know about, right?
To all authors?
I do it for all authors now. Like that's how I do it. And the more famous they are, the more I do it. The more I suspect them. Because I feel like these imperialists, they wouldn't uplift somebody unless they're working for them, unless they're their agent, right? So the more you fight imperialism, the less they're gonna uplift you. They're gonna put you down. And the more you work for them, the more they're gonna put you up. Because that makes sense, right? Why would they cut off their own leg, right?
Yeah.
So but I also had to study like imperialism and also Hindu colonial trauma, the trauma of my own people. And I have, as far as actually studying the history of imperialism, I have a mentor that helped me with that. And she has an 8-week course on Hindu colonial trauma and also a 3-week course on imperialism. And it's an hour long each. And there are two ways to take the course. One is self-paced. You take it at your own pace. Uh, and another way is you can schedule like a Q&A session with her for every video you want, and you can do it at your own. Both of you can negotiate a time that works for both of you so that you can, you know, so it's not a fixed time, it's a time that would work for you. She makes sure it's a time that works for you. And as far as payment, she's been very good about like, you know, trying to find out like how much you can afford, and if you truly can afford to pay her, then there are trade agreements she does because she's doing this as a form of activism. It's not so much about the money, although it is also labor for her, so she does also deserve to be paid. So it's a
Yeah.
negotiation, right? Like so if you want to take those courses, let me know. I can send you a link for that. That helped me out a lot too. And then when I started reading a lot of books about mind control and propaganda, the history of propaganda. That helped me out a lot too, as far as knowing what to look for, right? So one good book that I read is called The Search for the Manchurian Candidate, the CIA and Mind Control. That's one book I read this year. Another book, which is also a book that I actually picked up for my book club, is called, actually I have it right here. It's called Active Measures. And is and the subtitle is The Secret History of Disinformation and Political Warfare by Thomas Rid. And it covers 100 years of propaganda and disinformation from 1917 until 2021. So almost 100 years. Uh,
Okay.
it is focused on mainly on Soviet, so it's basically Russian and American propaganda because covers 100 years, right? It's 400 pages. So you can't cover too many countries, right? But
Yeah.
even those two countries, you'll learn a lot, And then that was our August pick for my book club. And then the September pick was a similar book, but it's more about modern times. And it's called Like War, The Weaponization of Social Media by P.W. Singer and Emerson T. Booking, right? So the irony of reading these types of books, right, is because the irony is the authors themselves are imperialists, right? So it's like I even wondered like, why aren't they revealing their secrets so openly, right? And then I realized these books themselves, even though they're telling the truth and facts, it's the books themselves are in a sense a form of mind control where they kind of want to scare you and destabilize your mind, like Devin was saying, right? And
Mhm.
making you like feel paranoid about everything and making you feel ungrounded because that makes you even more easier to mind control. So you do have to like when you read these types of books, you have to keep your mind very strong and very grounded so that
Mhm.
like you don't end up feeling hopeless. That's very important. So because that's why they're telling you but they only tell you after they've done it, right? After the fact. Because it's like now that, like what are you going to do about what happened 100 years ago, right? That's why they're willing to reveal it, right? So
Oh,
so they're basically, it's a challenge, it's a threat. They're saying, we did all this. We can still do it to you. That's why they publish these books.
I see.
Yeah,
It's kind of like they're laughing in your face a little bit.
exactly, a little bit. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, I do have a poem to read, but
Awesome.
it's not about propaganda though.
That's fine. Maybe I will lighten the mood by sharing my edgy poem after that.
Okay,
Yeah,
sounds good.
yeah.
All right. So, created an end for you and for me, a descent of all tiered and tired. You wait for the end, wait for all the laughs to utter and rattle, to succumb to your mother's choice. Stern, light-headed, you return, without a soul or face. This is your life. Who have you become? Do you think you've got a taste of lushness, lost promises you've never wrote? Coerced, I shoved you, I sonneted you over confections of lies and deceit. So that
Mm,
poem, it was basically about a mother who overlooked her son's life way too
mm,
much and kind of like made it into like a tunnel, so where there's nothing else in your life except for the mother,
mm,
and how
mm,
everyone has to like succumb to their mother's choice. So, and I have a good relationship with my mom. I mean, like, this poem
mm,
wasn't about my mom, but it was just about, like, someone that I've dated in the past, and
mm.
basically, like, their mom kind of controlled their life and how that kind of affects the relationships that they have with other people. So, I just wanted to write a poem about it, but I've never shared it before. So, first time sharing poem.
Yeah, because and it is you mentioned lies and stuff, and and in the way mind control works, right? Sometimes even people who are oppressed would reinforce the oppression to their fellow oppressed people. Like women sometimes themselves can be patriarchal, right? Like my friend told the story about how uh, their where one time she was sexually assaulted, right? And then she came back home and told her sister, right, about it. And the first question their sister asked was, "What were you wearing?" That's so fucked up, right? So women are doing it even to each other. This sort of, programming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Honestly, I think that it has to end. Like, we have to stop oppressing each other. Like, like you were
Exactly.
saying, women oppressing women, like men oppressing men, like
Hmm.
we're all on the same team, you know what I mean? Like we should all
Yeah,
be on the same team. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Same ocean, different boats.
Yep.
Yeah.
Emotion, different boats.
That's why I have a T-shirt with that.
You should. I would
No, I
wear.
do have a T-shirt with
Oh,
that.
you do?
I painted it. Like the one that I sent you, that's more I wanted to do a print version, but I actually have a painted T-shirt where I use fabric paint to paint that.
That's awesome. I would like to
Yeah,
see it one day.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, maybe I'll bring it this Saturday when you come to my book club. Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds great.
yeah.
Where is it, by the way?
The book club?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's at the bookstore, Arvida bookstore at one
Oh, it's
o'clock.
at Arvita. Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah, at the Tuscan.
Saturday
Yeah,
at Arvita.
yeah. And the
Oh,
open mic is right afterwards at 4 o'clock. So if you want to stay, maybe we can, because we'll finish around, I think, 2:30 or 3. And
oh,
so
dang.
I'm just gonna stay. And then
What time is it?
what?
The book club
The book club's at 1?
at 1? And
Yeah.
okay, that's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to just hang out with me and just stay, we can do that. We can just keep talking after everybody leaves. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can
Yeah.
probably stay for the book club at 1,
Yeah.
but I have work at 4, so I probably won't be able to stay for the open mic.
Oh, okay, that's fine too. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh,
at least I'll
yeah.
be able to make it to your book club.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. You want to hear my raunchy poem?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. I don't usually write a poem like this. So this is called edging, and you probably know what edging is. If you don't, you will.
Uh, I think so.
Yeah, it's called edging. Kissing, my lips getting closer and closer to your inner lips. You moan, you get so close. I stop. I kiss further away, top, right, left. I come back. I brush past, whisper sweet juices right on top of your lips. You moan harder, your back arches. I slap that ass just enough to secrete another twitter from your juicy lips. I get closer and closer. My lips touch your clits. Just the slightest brush, like a breeze. Your body riding now, sweat glistening, getting so close. I move away again, now kissing your thighs, then looking into your eyes filled with desire. My lips moving closer and closer as you get closer and closer. Then I kiss your belly, caress your round, fruity bottom, and just at the right moment, give it a brief squeeze. Your moans soar like doves turning into eagles, your whole body itself turning more and more into majestic skies. Finally, I kiss further and further, down, 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 kissing your hood, and then that nectar of pleasure underneath. Your moans now explode into a big bang. What we have co-created together is our own internal satisfied universe within their universe.
That's beautiful,
Thank
Kundan.
you.
That's beautiful. You should read that at Arvita.
Yeah.
I think people would love it. I'm reading this book actually. It's called Poems to F2.
I have that book.
You do?
Yeah, my friend Sean Hill's in that book.
No way.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Your poem should be in that book.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. When did you write that?
This was I believe 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 2, 3 years ago. Yeah.
That's awesome. Great
Hmm.
job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Raunchy poems are always fun because They like, I think they just create like just an atmosphere of passion, like
Mm-hmm.
it really allows you to like be yourself and like once you're so close with that other person, I just feel like that's like it's an important part of life, you know what I mean?
Mm.
So I think that was
Yeah,
beautiful. I really like
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, so yeah, so I've given you a lot to research on your own, including, these books, Active Measures and Like War,
Yes.
and also The Search for the Manchurian Candidate. Uh, so those three books are the most important. In fact, The Search for the Manchurian Candidate, it will be on my book club schedule for next year.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah,
Perfect.
yeah,
Yeah, I wrote that down. So
yeah.
I'm gonna definitely research imperialism, hypnosis, and fictionary books. I'm gonna research one of my favorite authors and then put like controversy, racism, and ideology like on top of it
Exactly,
to see what's going
exactly.
on. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
also gonna research Peter Thiel. I don't know much about him, so
Oh, he's the scariest guy on earth right now, I think.
really. What's a
Yeah.
little bit more backstory on him? Like, what's going on?
So he's the mentor of JD Vance. You know who is JD Vance, right?
Yeah,
So the and he has created like many different technology companies, and but increasingly the companies that he are creating is more and more like AI and virtual reality related. And one of the companies that he founded, the latest one, he also founded PayPal, by the way. You know,
really.
yeah, and so his latest company is called Palantir Technologies. And Palantir, by the way, you know where that word comes from?
Palestine?
No, no, no. Palantir. Have you read Lord of the Rings or seen the movie?
Yes. I've seen the movie.
So do you remember the stone?
Yep.
The the stone that can see the whole world and all that? That's a Palantir. It's named after that stone. That's called
That's
Palantir.
scary.
Right? The fact that he named his company after that, and it's an AI spyware company, and they want to predict crimes. And one of the ways they want to do that is to connect your brain to a computer network so that they can uh, find out if you're going to commit a crime before you do it.
That is the scariest thing I have ever heard in my life.
Right. And he wants to put people in virtual reality prisons as as a kind alternative to genocide.
Oh, oh my God.
How ridiculous does that sound? This is how delusional these people are. And by the way, this is a real technology that could happen because Elon Musk already has a company called Neuralink, which is and they're already doing experiments linking people's brain to a computer. They've tried experiments with 6 people already.
With 6 people?
Yeah, yeah.
I thought it was just one.
No, I think it was one, and then they're slowly increasing it, and they're finding it hard. And also, I will send you an article. There's some very shady stuff going on with ICE because you know how a lot of people have disappeared after being arrested by ICE, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of these ICE detention centers are very close to Neuralink company
Oh my
company
God.
offices. So that's very suspicious too. And then some of these ICE detainees, when they come back into the world, something is wrong with their brain. So that's a weird coincidence too. And there's an article about that too that I can send you. And that's also connected to Peter Thiel because I'm sure Peter Thiel probably funds Elon Musk's company too. Uh, so JD Vance, right, is the vice president. And I almost feel like Donald Trump is very old. He is like, 81, right?
Yeah.
I feel like Peter Thiel convinced Donald Trump to have JD Vance as vice president on purpose because all of these billionaires, they don't actually want Trump. They want JD Vance as president. And since Trump is very old, he might be gone in like before even his term is up. Then who will become president? J.D. Vance, who is and his mentor is Peter Thiel. Now he can become the power behind the throne. That's the agenda. So that's why I said, this kind of guy becoming the power behind the throne, that's very scary. So that's why I'm saying he's like one of the scariest guys in the world.
What really gets me is the
Yeah,
Palantir AI spyware where
yeah,
they want to like look into people's brains before they
yeah.
commit a crime. That is insane.
There's
Like
literally a Hollywood movie about that called Minority Report. Do you know that?
Minority Report. I'm gonna watch
Yeah.
it.
And it's based on a novel that Philip K. Dick wrote decades ago. So that means they've been planning this for decades.
Oh my God. What is going on with the world, Kundan? What is going on with the world? That is so
And Minority
frightening.
Report is a 2002 film, so it's that even the movie is 23 years old. It's almost as old as you.
And no,
Yeah,
literally, it's almost as
yeah,
old as me. It's
yeah.
literally like they show us what they're gonna do before they do it.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Because the reason why they do it is so another important aspect of mind control is that initially they do need your consent. You cannot hypnotize somebody without your consent, right? At least initially. So what they do is they present it as entertainment. So you consent to the entertainment, but you didn't really consent to the hypnosis, right? But they don't care because they got your initial consent.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. I'm scared. I have goosebumps. I literally have
Right?
goosebumps.
Yeah. Yeah, you should do some breathing exercises, taking a deep breath and breathing out, touching grass. And this is also why, like,
I
it's
need to
very,
touch grass.
yeah, it's very important for everybody to reconnect to your pre-imperialist, pre-colonial indigenous ancestral practices. Like you said you're part Mexican, Cuban, and Finland, right? So even Finland, right? Before they were Finnish, they were Sami indigenous people, which by the way still exists in Finland today, and they're still oppressed even to this day in Finland, right?
You said
So they are,
some.
yeah, so they are pre-European indigenous people in Finland and other Scandinavian countries called the Sami. And so that's one part of your indigenous culture you can try to reconnect to, right? And of your pre-European. And then on the Mexican side and the Cuban side, right? Before Christianity came along and, turned everyone Christian, they had their own, deities. They had goddesses, they had goddess worship, right? Uh, where the divine feminine was practiced. Uh, all of those things you can do your research. I know it's difficult, right? But I truly believe that if you talk to your pre-imperialist indigenous ancestors and you specifically say your pre-imperialist indigenous ancestors because you don't want to talk to your imperialist ancestors, right? You only want to talk to them to the ancestors before that. So you have to make sure it's the right ancestor. But if you start writing, right, like just like in your diary, eventually they will talk back to you in dreams and in signs or sometimes in a book that comes along, right? Or even me talking to you and pointing to all this. I believe it's your ancestors talking to you through me. Even I have goosebumps saying that right now.
I know. I
Like,
like feel super connected right
yeah,
now. Like,
yeah. So do that. That's the number one thing to keep you grounded in the face of all this, because otherwise, even like Devin said, it's very scary and it can make you paranoid and it can weaken your mind even more, and then they can mind control you even more. So in order to keep your mind strong, you have to reconnect to those practices, and it has to be your own culture, because if you try to take other people's cultures, you're contributing to the imperialism because that's appropriation. And also, you don't know what the fuck you're doing because it's not your culture, right? But if you reconnect to your ancestors, and I know it's harder for Mexicans and Cubans because the colonizers erased so much of your, indigenous culture and even your language. Like the Hawaiian language was illegal until the 1980s, for example. Did you know that? Like,
I didn't.
as they, yeah, and they cut off their hair. All these things that all these languages were banned, right? And so it's difficult. That's why I say for you, you got to start with you talking to your ancestors with sincerity and being like, I really want to connect back to my pre-imperialist indigenous spiritual practices. And because I want to be grounded and I want my mind to be strong so that I can protect myself from hypnosis and propaganda and then fight imperialism in my own way. And your ancestors will also let you know like how to do that, what your role is, right? Because you are a survivor of that because your own parents were so mind controlled they kicked you out, right? That's literally mind control, by imperialists. That's why they did it.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wait, but what do you mean by that? Like,
Well,
elaborate.
like for example, a lot of like Christian, like Catholic Mexicans tend to be very queerphobic, for example. Queerphobia didn't exist before the Christians and the Muslims came along. Because we
Really?
had gender diversity, we had sexual, like all indigenous people before imperialism, colonialism, we had sexual orientation diversity, we had gender diversity, we had all of that. And they came along and started brainwashing us and saying, oh, you're dirty savages for not being uh, you're not civilized enough because some of you are queer and you're accepting of queer people. All of that, and you're bisexual. I feel like part of the reasons why your parents, didn't like you might be also your queerness, and that is literally a result of imperialist brainwashing, that queer phobia. It's all connected, like.
Wow. I have so much appreciation for your knowledge. I have so much appreciation for like what you're teaching, the community with your book
Mhm.
club and like because I mean, you probably already know this, but you are so smart. And like, I cannot tell you how many things I've learned today based off of just like 1 hour and a half
Right. Yeah.
being here. You know what I mean? And it's just like, you got me thinking. And I do want to reconnect with my Mexican, Cuban, and Finland pre imperialist ancestors. Like, I want to know their spiritual practices. Like, I don't want to be part of the mind control, you know?
Exactly. And ironically, the Finland one might be easiest for you because at least they still exist, like the Sami and also I think possibly the Croatians, I think. I have to fact check that. I'm not sure about that, but I
Do
know
you
the Sami,
spell it Somi?
Sami. The Sami for sure, like, they're dying out because they're so oppressed, but they do still exist, like, and their practices still do exist, like. And
Somi.
on, yeah, I know you're on TikTok a lot. I don't really like TikTok because it's also very imperialist. But a lot of there's quite a few Sami TikTokers you can look up
Okay.
to find out more about their practices and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you, Kunda.
yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Yeah, and I know you probably haven't read, my book club book yet, but that's fine. You can still come and you can still learn something.
Which
So
which book is it?
it's called The Blood Telegram,
The Blood
and
Telegram?
yeah, it's about the 1971 genocide of Bangladeshi Hindus. It's this book. It's uh, The Blood Telegram, Nixon, Kissinger, and a Forgotten Genocide by Gary J. Bass. And so about 3 million Bengali Hindus were killed. And according to the book, 10 million were ethnically cleansed, 10 million were displaced. But according to our own Hindu historians, about actually the total number of people genocided was 20 million. And that's why
Wow.
it's considered the second biggest genocide of the last 100 years that, almost no one knows about. So that's why I picked up this book. And even this book, right, because it's written by a white guy, even though he gives us a lot of facts and truth, he still frames it in a very Hindu-phobic colonial way, or imperialist way, where he makes it look like, oh, it's just beef between two groups of people. No, it's not beef. It's literally colonialism by one group against my people. It's imperialism by one group, and it's imperialism that has been going on for 1,000 years and counting, you know. So, but I'm like, I still chose this book because it's the only book that even talks about it. So yeah.
You should write a book about what you talk about. I feel like your book would be very non-biased, just like,
Exactly. Yeah, and I will self-publish it because, like I said, I don't like the
yeah,
big five. I'm not gonna let these Nazis publish my book.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Well, when do you think you're gonna release that article with all the links?
Oh, I don't know. Like I wasn't even planning on it initially because the thing is, I've also for the past few months I've also been writing a 4,000 word article on how dystopian fiction is a form of mind control,
Okay,
right?
I would like to read that too.
So I want to finish that article first, and then this one you know, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to release it as a video or an article, but now that we've had this conversation and you asked, I think it's better as an article because that way everything is in one central place that people can just click the links and look it up themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel like you've got a lot done today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do have a Patreon where if you want to subscribe and, support me financially a little bit, that works too. And
What's
also
the
you can have one of
Patreon?
Patreon is like it's a site where you can pay the creators you love like a little bit of money per month. Like my lowest level is $6 a month, and it's like a
Okay.
subscription. And so for the free content that I provide, some people who want to support me, they just join my Patreon, and that way that helps me at least pay for the books that I buy
Yeah,
to do my
absolutely.
research. So
Is
yeah, the
it
lowest.
linked on your Instagram?
Actually, I think it is. Yeah, that's the only link I have, I think.
Got it.
Uh,
Perfect.
uh, and then if you ever want to do one-on-one sessions on a paying basis where it's more personalized to your issues, we can talk about that. That will be a paying basis. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll
Oh,
definitely look it up and I'm
yeah.
gonna get a second job soon and
Okay.
with my second job it's gonna allow
Hmm.
me to be more financially flexible, but I would
Awesome.
love to join your Patreon and I would love to
Awesome.
do one-on-one sessions because I think this is awesome personally. So,
Awesome. Yeah. You're welcome. And then would you like me to send the links to my friends' imperialism and Hindu colonial trauma course too?
I would.
Okay, I'll
Yes.
send you the link. So the way she does it is she does it by application because in the past, when she was making it more freely available and she wasn't even charging, at first it was good, but later on, like she started attracting people who did not respect her work and who were very racist and Hindu-phobic towards her. So now she does it by application where, you know, you, you basically answer some questions, including how you found out about it. And under that, you just say it's me. And then you also answer questions about like how much you can afford. And if you cannot afford it, what kind of trade agreement you want to do, like so there's stuff like that. And
Okay.
then the two of you can negotiate on your own, like what would be like the final agreement between the two of you. But uh, but if you do apply, I can vouch for you at least because I know you personally, and be like you are not, you're legit. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much, Kundan. I'm so glad that I joined this live. Like, I'm so glad that I did.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's why I do this work, because like I said in one of my poems, which you heard at Libremobile, my own country is a victim of disinformation and it's in a civil war because of it. You know, like I couldn't even send medicine to my dying dad last year because of the civil war. Like it didn't, because there's no couriers that go there, you know, and there's only private couriers, and it took the medicine didn't reach there until 6 weeks after he died. Like,
Oh my God, I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
thank you. Yeah. So that's another reason why I'm so passionate about it. You know, it's very personal for me.
You have you have a great strength in research, and I can tell that you're passionate about what you do, and it's really helping a lot of people, and me included. Like I didn't know at first when you started talking, I didn't know half of the stuff you were talking about, but now I'm very informed. At least I feel
Mm,
like it, you know. And
thank
I
you.
would like to continue coming to these sessions so I can learn even more.
Yeah, yeah. Every Thursday night at 8 o'clock. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Yeah.
So see you Monday. I'll end the live now. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah.
Thank you,
All right.
Kundan.
Peace. Yeah. See you
Bye.
Saturday at 1.
See you Saturday.
Bye.
Bye.